allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to do this a little bit different than normal tonight. I like doing things the normal way. You'll see there's no presentation, there's no slideshow for you, and I'm not going to say a whole lot today. This isn't about me, this is about you guys, so I'm not going to spend an hour talking about things and telling you things that most of you know. What we're here for tonight is to hear your concerns and answer your questions. And it's open to anything. Taxes, solid waste fees, the budget, surplus, permitting and licensing of small businesses or large businesses, home renovations, the county budget, county expenditures, parks, transportation. I'm sure somebody here is going to mention Baltimore Road, and of course land use of all varieties. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my staff who made this possible, who make everything that I do possible. Rebecca, my chief of staff, who's standing in front. Karen Headley. And Shannon Martin. Please don't have if they do all the work. I just sit there and take credit for it. Sometimes.
That's what you have the county pay us to do for you.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell how much the county pays you to do it for me. We'll have that discussion at another time. And so, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pat ourselves on the back for everything that we've done or tried to do over the past 8 or 9 months. That's not really the important thing. The important thing is hearing from the community on what we have left undone and what we need to do and what your concerns are. And believe me, from listening to the calls and the emails that we get in the office, it runs the gamut of county operations. Take your pick, take your department. Everything's fair game tonight. I would just ask if we're going to make it personal with me, not with anybody in the audience, please. And with that, we'll just start taking questions. Come up with
One question, get back in.
Excuse me. We have a hard cutoff time, so what I'm going to ask is everybody asks one question. If you've got a second, back in line and start all over again, just so we get as many people answered as possible tonight. Please come up to the front of that right here. And I'm going to take his hand out because I can't see him standing behind me. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, everybody. Grandma Resistance here. I have a question. I have a question. If we get a yes vote and they go ahead with the digital gateway, can we reverse that when the new board comes in January?
Maybe. It depends on the timing of the board vote. If it's before a certain date, it can't be undone. It's that simple.
What is that date?
In theory, anything after December 5th.
Is your office still tallying or taking care of a total of all of the megawatts that come online? Because there's a growing conversation with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding the balance of electricity. And at the Townhall in Manassas, you had said something about taking care of some demand.
He's asking if we're keeping a tally of the proposed megawatts. I wish we could. Fact of the matter is, more and more applications are coming in every week. There have been 4 filed since July for more data centers in Prince William County. It is unclear just how many gigawatts, we're not talking megawatts anymore, gigawatts that entails. I think, I believe I read an article this morning from Culpeper where they're looking at a 200% increase, Dominion is, in the Commonwealth, driven largely by data centers. So the question is, It's a two-part question as to how you deal with it. Dominion's got two problems. One is the transmission aspect. They don't have the infrastructure in place to handle that kind of additional load. It will require a multitude of transmission lines. I know Karen's in here somewhere. She's done a lot of research on this, using PJM studies and their projections as to where some of the projects are going to have to go. And we're talking about billions of dollars of infrastructure that will fall on the ratepayers. The other side of the coin is the generation capacity. The additional gigawatts required for even a small percentage of what's proposed, not just in Prince William and Loudoun, but across Northern Virginia and to some extent across the Commonwealth. Dominion Power doesn't have the generation capacity to do it. If you look at their IRP, they're already talking about new gas-fired plants, buying off the market from PJM, importing power from, take your pick, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Kentucky, West Virginia. I mean, it's not entirely clear where it's going to come from, but I can tell you where it's not coming from. It's not coming from wind and solar. Just not. I mean, the rule of thumb is for every watt of power that you generate with renewables, namely solar and wind, you actually need 4 to make up for each one of fossil fire wattage because of the unreliability and the inconsistency of the power. But in answer to your question, no, we can't track it anymore because the numbers have just gotten too large and the applications too many.
As somebody who's formulating a letter to FERC,
That's PJM is currently doing that. That's what our reference to it.
right, well, what are they giving them? Are they giving them, what level of construction of the 60, 70 data centers are they giving them? Are they giving them what's going on right now? Or are they giving them that which has been approved as in construction?
My understanding is that Dominion's projections are only for what is on the books and approved, but not for what is in the preliminary stages of the pipeline or perspective.
And then there's that.
And then there's
that's
that.
the ones that are around 25%,
The
50%.
question came up with Culpeper, and the question was, well, if we're planning for this much infrastructure and this much transmission capacity to deal with what we're currently planning, are we going to be in the same situation 5 years down the road where we're going to have to redo it all over again? And the answer is, I don't think anybody knows yet.
I think we're going to be in the same situation in 2026.
My personal belief is you're right.
When the wind farm comes up.
Yeah.
How to get that
Next
far.
question.
Hello, Bob, thanks for doing this. Can y'all hear me?
Louder.
She's got the same short problem I do.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Better.
All right. So, in my opinion, the only way this madness stops is if the board changes. So that's electing Janine, and that's electing another supervisor willing to stop this stuff. And because of that, I want to help people when I'm door knocking in other areas other than Gainesville to understand how the car tax is what it is, because that appeals to every voter and possibly gets them to flip their vote on some of these Democrat supervisor and Janine positions. So do you have a brief explanation of why the car tax is what it is now? Do you have anything on your Facebook page or website or anything that explains it?
You're asking about the vehicle personal property tax, why it's so high this year?
Yes.
We got an explanation. We got several explanations. The most recent explanation goes something like this. Last year's assessments were based on NADA values, but in truth they actually weren't, because they didn't load them in time. But due to COVID and the lack of new vehicle supply, to some degree lack of used vehicle supply, and computer chips, the price on where the assessed value of used vehicles went up significantly last year. In response, the county essentially gave us a 20% credit on the assessed value and reduced your payments last year. During the budget discussions earlier this year, March and April, county staff came forward asserted quite unequivocally that COVID was essentially over to some degree, and that the prices had returned to the norm. And that as a result of the prices returning to the norm, they suggested getting rid of the 20% reduction in your assessment, the tax assessment. Didn't turn out that way. To make matters worse, although they told the board they were going to use NADA numbers, depending on who you listen to, NADA has refused to supply the numbers this year directly to the county. So the county is using a third-party software that I guess buys or is given the NADA data and using that to derive your assessed value. If you go on JD Power right now, it'll take in the NADA values, and your vehicle will probably be assessed at significantly lower than what the county is showing. The question is why? Is it because the values have changed so much from January, which is the date that the county is using for the assessments? Or is it because the software is different from changing the values? We don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure the finance department knows. All I know is that vehicle numbers are up. One of my own vehicles, my wife's vehicle, is actually assessed by the county $2,000 more than what NADA's current value is. My next door neighbor's Bronco, $16,000 above his assessment, above what he paid for it. And what was it, Tesla? $2,000 above NADA value? 10,000? I thought it was 2. Let me bring this down. So yeah, I mean, we were promised, the board was promised by finance that the numbers would come back to the norm. That hasn't happened. I had thought a couple of weeks ago of taking a portion of last year's surplus and using that to offset the personal property taxes. I think we're looking at like $47 million in surplus, I believe is the most recent number, 49, I think. The problem with that is the county executive has a laundry list of things he wants to use the surplus money for, and we've already spent a good chunk of it. They spent $13 million of it in December, 6 months before the surplus was accrued. It's a spending problem, not just a revenue problem.
I have a comment on this exact.
Closer.
It's on the parking, that's why I wanted to. So, my daughter, we had her car registered in Alexandria, and she changed her registration back in December of last year. For some reason, VDOT, whatever, did not take it off of Alexandria. So we got a bill in Alexandria for her car, and we got a bill in Prince William County for her car. Alexandria came in at 0. She owes 0. Prince William County came in, she owes $186. So Alexandria sent something saying that they valued her car below $5,000, and any car that's valued below $5,000, they don't charge you.
That is typical of jurisdictions. It varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction in terms of rate, what level they charge you at, and if they do a forgiveness program like that. We don't. I can tell you, I have to pay personal property tax in the town of Haymarket as well as in Prince William, and through some gyrations the town did a number of years ago to address this, we pay 0. Everybody in town pays 0 on their vehicles. But, I mean, it all depends on the jurisdiction you're in. Now, you've got a problem still because you're getting billed by 2 jurisdictions. I mean, I've got a similar problem. When I got my tax bill and opened it up, I unfortunately own several vehicles because I have multiple drivers and my kids today have their own cars. I had traded in 2 vehicles on another vehicle for my daughter in July, I believe. My tax bill is for a vehicle I don't own, and I don't have a tax bill on a vehicle I do own, that I've owned for 6 years, so. I mean, part of that's VDOT, part of it's the county, it's unfortunate that things like that happen. Excuse me, DMV, not VDOT. Next.
Hi, hopefully this will be a quick, decision and you'll be able to handle this. I have written to every office at VDOT and to Department of Conservation about the monofilament that they use in their erosion netting. I've cut out birds, turtles, snakes in this, and I can't get a response. There's plenty of other states that just use jute and mesh, and it's not killing our wildlife. So it's a whole lot easier than data center discussion, and hopefully this can be handled easily with the push from you, but I can't get a response.
Meet Rebecca.
Hi.
She'll take care of that for you.
This is about the Gainsville Market Library. The data that the county produced for the apartment on 15 that they had proposed said that that particular library was one of the busiest in the county. I asked why then, not that you had the answer. It's not open on Sundays, and there's very, very limited hours several other days. In addition, they do not have a book drop. They're assuming that we're going to go past the dirty data centers and drop it the Virginia Gateway, where there now are 2. I observe many young families unbuckling their children from car seats to drop the books in the book drop that's on the facade of the building. There is no mailbox type. Now, the town of Haymarket has said that they would accept one where the caboose is. I have had correspondence with the head of the library of Prince William County, and I get no satisfaction from her. There is also an area by the library that's a small cul-de-sac that they could install. They choose not to. However, it's one of the busiest in the county.
Where's my library board member? I'm getting out of this one. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna sit down, guys.
Hi, I'm Michelle Baker, and I am the Library Board of Trustee for the Gainesville and the... Can't hear you. I'm just gonna do this.
Can't hear me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Baker. I'm the trustee for the Gainesville District Library Board. And you're correct, that is the busiest library. Our numbers are awesome for that library. I will take that to the board meeting this month and ask why again. It wasn't originally even designed with the book drop, which was a mistake by the that's something that I can work on for you and continue to take that with me.
While you're up here, you have any questions?
I do have a question, sir. I'm going to open
Just
up
saving time.
it doesn't save time. So, I am going to talk about the data centers because my husband and I have lived here for 32 years and we will be moving next year due in part to Prince William's raise of taxes on everything because my husband's retiring. But the data center issue is proffers are often used by applicants to sweeten the deal. And I want to know how much Parkland has the Gateway Data Center project actually proffered to Parks and Rec or schools.
Actual firm numbers of acres?
Please.
The answer is surprising. We have tried to get that out of planning for pretty much since I took office, and they've been working on it. We just met with Parks and Rec a couple of hours ago and asked the director of Parks and Rec literally how many acres have been proffered by the entirety of the project. Actual proper acres. You know, you get 800 and some bandied about in the press or bandied about in the PR. According to Parks and Rec, it's from Seth Handler. Seth Handler lost his lips to my ears. The total acreage is 7. Not 70, not 700, 7.
Go open spaces.
Green spaces, yes.
Come on, there's got to be more people back there. Come on, just come on. Don't be shy. No town, well, almost no town.
I have a question regarding taxes.
Louder.
No, just turn
Yes, we gotta get
Right against
right
it.
on top of it.
Hi, I have another question about the tax situation. I understand that Janine Lawson yesterday voted against the budget, but he voted with the Democrats for the budget. Is there some?
That's incorrect. I voted for some of the rates, not all of the rates, and I voted against the budget itself. The budget itself is a disaster. But there are a number of votes that are taken. In fact, in this particular budget cycle, there were at least 3 or 4 divisions of several questions. It's handled piecemeal. You've got the real estate tax rate set in one vote. You've got, I think we had the CIP tax rate set out in a second vote. No, that we separated computer and political tax out. I listened to that this morning. And a couple of others were lumped together. And then you've got the expenditure side, which is the actual budget, and none of us voted for that. And that's where I have the issue with on the budget. It's on the expenditure side and on some of the revenue, some of the revenue streams. I think I tried at one point in time to get the solid waste fee separated. Please, somebody ask me about solid waste fee. Because you're about to get the bill. Those of you that live in Dominion Valley just got it. But yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I voted for, yes. I made a deal on CIP. It's not CIP, excuse me, computer peripherals. Working with Janine and Gainsville, I committed to the C&P tax, which was part of one of the other packages, at $2.15 and not $1.85. What that allowed us to do was 2 things. It allowed us to drop a penny off of the mill rate under real estate taxes, so that instead of getting a flat tax rate, you got a flat tax bill. That allowed us to do that, and it also allowed us the additional monies on the backs of the data centers at least, to fund what was a grossly underfunded fire department. Fire department came to me during the election, before the election, complaining that unlike the police department, they weren't doing raises. When I started, I wasn't going to get a raise from this board. I looked at the numbers, and I think some of you will be astonished to know that starting firefighters in Columbia County prior to this year were making about as much as barista at Starbucks makes, $18 an hour. And the reason that they were told they were not getting a raise on the equivalent to that of the police department, this was told the fire department union, and I've heard this from more than one person, there were multiple witnesses. The chair's response was, your job isn't as dangerous and you're not as important. Well, I hope she feels that way when her house catches on fire, if it ever happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. However, I still don't understand why you would separate from Gainsville and Janine on voting on this particular issue with what resulted in the car tax being increased.
It was part of the agreement for the increased computer peripherals tax. I made a deal. Now, I disagree with how they spend it, which is why I voted against the budget.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Back again.
This question or statement is regarding the Ballsport refuse location. And I am aware that the drop-off of electronics and paint has not come back. I have seen people throw their paint in the trash their microwaves in the trash, so the, it's self-defeating for what they want to do. I had sent an email well over a year ago to Supervisor Campbell suggesting that if you reconstitute the Long Harbor someplace else, if they can't abide by it down in Fallsport, but I want to know, is it coming back or shall we throw it in the trash?
If you're talking about fuel recycling and chemicals, paints, hazardous waste disposal, we're told it's coming back. We've been working on this for almost 6 months, 7 months. Public Works, the people who increased your solid waste fee, claimed first they didn't have the space to do it any longer at Gulfsport. Okay. First it was finance, then it was we didn't have space. They have committed to bringing it back. It will not be every day. They've committed to at least 1 weekday a week. We've asked for 2, including a weekend, correct? I get confused sometimes. Yeah, we are working on it. They have committed to doing it. They just haven't given us a solid start date for when they're going to resume that at Gulfsport. No, here it comes.
I'm going to be gentle with you. First of all,
I've heard that before.
yeah. Guilty as charged. First of all, thank you for everything you do. I am thrilled that we voted for you. So,
You wrote the question out.
well, I have to because I have a lot of things going on in my life these days. But basically what I want to ask you about, and you kind of alluded to this when we were talking about the level of the car tax, the personal property tax, and how inefficient that process works. The county commissioned 2 studies on data centers, the Stantec study and the Camoin study. The Camoin study, by any kind of summary of it, there were things in there that they cherry picked to make it, favorable for them to approve Prince William Digital Gateway. But overall, there were questions about surpassing the maximum estimated number of data centers that we should have. But like we've already surpassed what we wanted in 2040. So that Stantec report says we're already, maybe I'm mixing up my reports. Stantec said that Prince William Digital Gateway and Pageland is not an appropriate place to site data centers.
That was Stantec and not Camoin,
Okay,
correct?
and then the Camoin one said, you've already hit your level for 2040, so why are we continuing to do this? My question is, and my point is, that the staff either hid the Stantec study, it hasn't ever been exposed or released to the public, so it's generally not known that that was recommended to the county by their own $250,000 contract report, and the same with Camoin. I mean, they just didn't emphasize that. So my question to you is, do you see a way forward to expose those reports so that there's a more balanced review of the Prince William Digital Gateway? Because right now it's heavily favored on the side of we want the Prince William Digital Gateway largely pushed by the chair.
Yes, but the reason isn't a good one.
Okay?
There's a darker side to the story. The Stantec report, to a lesser degree the Camoin report, were part of the study on the revision of the overlay district, data center overlay district. The overlay district was, the study of the overlay district was initiated by board resolution and directive, both, board votes. When the original Stantec numbers came in, I believe it was the first round, they recommended no changes in the boundary outline. And then apparently after the CPA was adopted, they changed it slightly to incorporate some of the planned data centers. Nevertheless, the requisite for putting that into motion was dealing with the overlay district study and recommendations from staff. It disappeared. And what I found was that somebody in executive management unilaterally shelved the study, put it in a pigeonhole, let it go away and die. That doesn't work for me. And I told this to the county exec. You pull it out of the pigeonhole and you finish what the board instructed you to do. You do not have the latitude, you or any other member of executive staff, to unilaterally take that and decide you're not going to do it. It's supposed to be being unshelved and brought forward. I haven't heard anything on that in about 2 weeks, but it is on my list of things to deal with the deputy CXO for development services tomorrow.
Good. And just a comment, that same county executive recently told several people when you were in the room that he didn't have any authority, that he was an agent of the board. So in the same, so how can he shelve?
I'll take that as a second question because I'll actually address that.
Okay.
And I addressed this to the county exec in that meeting. Prince William County is in many ways an oddity. And one of the ways that we're an oddity is we are only one of 2 jurisdictions that have a county executive form of government. Prince William County is Elmore County. As a result, the county executive has a whole lot of powers. He is not by statute. Mind you, this is by state code. This is not a county thing. By state code and by his scope of employment. He's not supposed to be the board's stooge. He's supposed to look out for the county's interests. He's supposed to look out for the county employees. He's supposed to manage the county. I guess he doesn't quite understand that, but I think I made it relatively clear to him last week that that's my expectation. I'm not one of those people that likes to be yes to death. If I've got a professional staff that disagrees with me, I do not have a problem with them telling me no or that I'm wrong. They'll have to convince me. But, you know, my position is that's what you're being paid for. That's your professional responsibility. That's your job. If you think I'm wrong, tell me. But apparently some of them don't want to do that. We'll see where that goes in the coming months.
Thank you. A little bit change of subject here, but the county received $100 million, I believe.
You gotta get real close to the mic.
The county received $100 million in data center revenues, I believe, this past year. That's what they're saying, and that's what I've read in the paper. And we have from anywhere between 33 to 35 data centers with anywhere from 4.5 million to 5 million square feet. This is one thing that really gets me and Bill Wright and a lot of other people. Why is everything a secret? And that's a long question. My real question was about the past. So let me put that in before you say I can't have what I come up here to say. And that is that even with that $100 million revenue, right, and we've all been promised that data center revenue will save us all. Only because you and Yesley and Janine fought for the flat rate tax this year, we got that. But in the past year, they've added a 4.5% tax. So if $100 million and they still needed a 4.5% tax, why should we believe that $500 million or $700 million is going to lower our tax and trust the government?
You shouldn't. It's the interesting thing about the numbers that get bandied around. You know, why can't you get a firm number? To some degree, it's because they can't give it to you. And and there's two reasons they can't give it to you. One, statutory. They can't disclose individual tax amounts by statute. The only person that can know the individual ones are the people in the finance department. That being said, they can tell you what the aggregate is. What do all of the data centers pay in C&P? And even that's kind of hard because C&P also impacts small businesses, restaurants, anybody that's got a computer as part of their business. What I can tell you is this. Well, two things I can tell you. The computer peripherals tax is aggregated into personal property tax in general. So when you see this big number come out, I think it was $350 million in the last budget. Not all of that is C&P tax. C&P tax. They claim that a lot of it is. We just asked finance today what the vehicle tax alone, just the vehicle personal property tax was out of that roughly $350 million, and they told us 169. 169. And then you've got a variety of other personal property taxes that are factored in there. And that was just personal vehicles. We're not talking about commercial vehicles and all of that. The other problem with that particular revenue stream is that there's no easy way to say this. In talking to the data center industry, the people that actually own the data centers, there are two different types of data center computer peripheral tax revenue stream. One comes from the turnkey operations, the ones that are wholly owned by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, the ones that own all the servers in it. They have to file a federal tax return, list all their equipment, data purchase. So it's pretty easy to appreciate it, come up with an assessment. Pain in the ass, because they own all kinds of thousands and thousands of servers, and finance department doesn't like doing it, but it can be done. So you've got that particular subset of data centers. Then you have what are called colos, co-location facilities. And if you're a co-location facility and you own the building, the only equipment you get taxed on are your servers, the servers that run your HVAC and that kind of thing, your bookkeeping and that. All of the other equipment is owned by the people that you are leasing the rack space to. It is my position, this is a personal belief on my part, that the county is leaving millions, if not tens of millions of dollars on the table, and the reason is this. In talking to some of the data centers, and they are very glib about this, they will tell you that they rent rack space to their tenants, and their tenants want to be good little taxpayers, so the data center tells them they need to go down and pull and this is straight from them. The data center tells them they need to go down to the court and pull a business license. So they go down to the court center. We want to apply for a business license so we can pay our taxes. And the tax department, finance department goes, okay, where's your occupancy permit? Well, we don't have an occupancy permit, we just rent rack space. No occupancy permit, no business license. Well, if we don't have a business license, we're not a taxable entity. Where's your occupancy permit? And it goes round and round and round and round. And quite frankly, from what I've told, a bunch of them just get fed up and go, well, the county doesn't want to collect my taxes, I'm not going to pay them.
Well, most of the ones that are coming now
Are the codes. Well, it gets worse.
okay.
We had a discussion with this a couple of weeks ago with finance department, head of finance. I said, how do you determine what the valuation of the equipment in those co-location facilities is? And they said, well, on January 1, they're supposed to send us a list of all of their equipment. But most of them don't. Okay. And then what? Oh, then we send them a request letter. And most of them don't respond. And then what? Then we send them a second request letter. And again, most of them don't respond. Okay, and then what? Well, then we send them a summons. I'm like, oh, good. You're taking advantage of your fiscal powers granted upon you as the finance department by the state. And then what? Oh, and then we send them another request letter. Whoa, back up. You just sent them.
I want to ask,
Summons.
before Bill Wright.
Okay, hang on. So, I said, you just sent them a summons, why are you sending them another request? And the answer was, and I quote, "We don't believe the board has the appetite to litigate it, and economic development told us it would have a chilling impact on bringing more data centers." And I'm like,
Yes, let's have a chilling effect.
so there you go.
All right, I'm going to talk loud. Thanks for coming. Right up to my mouth. Bob, my question is going to deal with the impact of the digital gateway on the occupied watershed. It's the topic that I've followed now for the last year and a half since the board authorized a water study using the occupied watershed land use model. It's ongoing right now. It'll be a year before we get final results. But there are some interim results that have just recently been produced which predict an enormous change in the runoff should all the land be developed and all three of the zoning applications, meaning that they're changing it from the current land use of forestation and agriculture to pervious surface. My question is going to be whether or not this inordinate uncontained runoff might be a violation of the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Act, which gives criteria on runoff for all watersheds in the restoration area of the Chesapeake. So I guess what I'm asking is, shouldn't our planning office be sure that we're not potentially violating the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Act before they recommend an approval of zoning rules?
The answer is we're required to. Jen, correct me if I start to misspeak on this. You've forgotten more about this than I remember. There is actually a requirement in terms of post-development versus pre-development conditions and the amount of stormwater that can run off. And I think you have to be within 0.01% of the pre-existing condition at the end of your development. And the county is supposed to be monitoring that. It's largely a paper math exercise. Does it actually happen? It's a good question. But at the end of the day, if you're not actually testing and you're just doing it on paper, it's an academic exercise. So in theory, the county is holding them to that. Whether that's what's happening on the ground in actuality, it's hard to say. But I think what everybody doesn't understand is that it's not just whether you reduce the runoff to the same level in a pre-development state. It's what condition does that runoff occur in. If you've got a grass field or a meadow that has, X number of cubic gallons, whatever, running off it, that's running off it in sheet flow. So you're not getting this huge erosion effect in a lot of places where you're carving channels. With most development I've seen in Prince William County, at least on this scale, you don't have sheet flow anymore. It's channelized flow, and you start getting, erosion because you're funneling it all to one location. What impact does that have downstream on siltation and additional effluent going into the water supply? It is a very good question. Has the state done a good job of studying that? In my estimation, no, but this has been a circumstance for at least the last 23 years that I've been looking at it.
Hello, Bob. I'm determined to talk into the microphone. So,
You're Bill Wright from Heritage.
I have a few statements which are a preamble to a question. Okay?
Here it comes.
When the digital gateway was last considered by the Planning Commission on September 14, 2022, There were several important omissions in the staff report. There was no water study conducted to project impacts on the Occoquan watershed and reservoir. There was no mention of electrical power requirements, how they would be met, or cost and impact of required electrical infrastructure. There was no plan to ensure noise mitigation, and there was a need for a revised county noise ordinance. There was no cost estimate prepared to ensure an accurate depiction of net revenue streams. There were inadequate measures to ensure protection of historic and cultural resources, and provisions for park and open space were, I'm being charitable, ambiguous and misleading. So my question is, a year later, how many of these issues have been adequately addressed?
Off the top of my head, based on our fourth round responses, of the ones that the applicant is responsible for responding to, perhaps half.
What about those that the county is responsible for ensuring?
I have not seen anything on the water study, and the county had the opportunity to deal with the power aspect of it to some degree with the work session schedule. When DEQ was threatening to issue the waiver for the diesel backup generators. But once DEQ backed out of that, the county canceled the rest of the meeting. Thus, we didn't have the opportunity to ask PJM or Dominion on the record in that kind of formal say how they were going to address it.
I don't really have a question for you, Bob. Bob knows me very well, and
Too well.
I believe a number of you know me, but I want to speak to everybody here, and I really have a question for all of you, but you're welcome to comment on whatever I bring up. I'm here to talk about what I've heard from all of you, and that is quality of life. And it's an issue that I'm a little bit emotional about, so I apologize because I just learned 2 hours ago that one of my dog's quality of life is ending due to cancer very shortly. So, having gotten that out of the way, everything that all of you have brought up is about quality of life. My name is Karen Sheehan. I love Prince William County, and sometimes I don't know why recently, but I do love this county, and I've loved it from the moment I sat on the top of Bull Run Mountain and looked down on where I want to live 29 years ago. And I got that land, and I live there now, and I love it. And I don't want me to lose it, or any of you to lose it, or any of our children or grandchildren. But each and every one of us needs to do our homework, needs to understand what's coming. And I'm the director, along with our executive director, Elena Schlossberg, of the Coalition to Protect Prince William County. I have spent the last month and a half researching and analyzing the plans that our power industry and our data center industry have for us, for this region. And I have shared that with you through a blast email from the coalition just a few days ago. And it's very obvious that not many people are opening up that first link in that email. What I have done is I'm trying to help each and every person in this room and in this county and across the region to better understand the devastation that is coming unless we all stand up and stop any more data center approvals. What we have today, we can't support. If we get any more, we're going to be bankrupt. This deck, that if you open it up, tells you that the plans just for the approved power from data centers is $52 billion. $52 billion for the electricity. That's not the water, that's not the roads, that's not the buildings. That's just for the electricity for what's already operating today, because our grid is falling apart. And we, all of us, need to understand this, and I'm trying to help people understand by distilling it down and giving you pictures and giving you explanations. But I can't make you understand if you don't read. I can't help you if you don't listen. I can't help you if you don't show up. I can't help you if you don't write a letter. All of us love what we have, and we don't want to lose it. And we are going to lose it if this keeps up. So this is the Prince William deck. And the Loudon deck is coming out in a few days, and you'll be notified of that. Please go to the coalition website, protectpwc.org. It's front and center. Click on it, open it, and save your quality of life by getting involved.
I'm actually going to make sure that I'm going to paraphrase what I said the other night at another town hall. As regards quality of life, I take a different outlook on it than most elected officials historically in Prince William County. I, like many of you, bought my house here quite some time ago. I understand land use and dealing with it for decades, far longer than I've lived in Prince William County and other jurisdictions. And when we bought our house, we bought an existing home, we did not build new. So I don't want to hear anybody say that I tore somebody's land up and put a golf course in the house. I bought an existing home. When I bought the house, and we were looking at houses in Prince William, I actually looked at the long-range land use plan. I looked at the comp plan map, see what was planned in the area around my home to ensure, to the degree possible, that what I bought would be maintained in some semblance of the state that it was in. What I didn't know when I moved to Prince William County is that the comp plan of Prince William County has all the consistency of Jello. Nothing in the comp plan lasts very long. Special interest to control land use in this county for at least the last 30 years that I'm aware of, certainly the last 23. And if you think it's going to get any better under the new comp plan, you're wrong. We're not talking just data centers. We're talking data centers, solar farms, battery storage places, poorly located industrial and commercial facilities, overly dense housing in areas that can't support it. If anybody believes that a high-density, affordable housing unit complex should be built on a 2-lane road in the rural area, 5 to 10 miles from transit, with no walkable facilities, either in terms of stores, schools, restaurants, you're kidding yourself. It's doomed to fail. Then again, so many development projects in Prince William County have been doomed to fail because they were oversold by the developers. And I'll get away from data centers on this one, because I'll tell you what it used to be. They would come to the board and go, we've got this mixed use development we're gonna pitch you. We're gonna build X number of houses, and then we're gonna build the commercial and the retail. But we can't build the commercial and the retail because there's not enough rooftops, so we have to build the rooftops first. Then the county buys it. And they build all the rooftops. And 3 to 5 years later, the applicant comes back and goes, we're sorry, we were wrong. There's still not enough rooftops. So we're going to take the commercial and the residential, commercial and the retail, and we're going to turn that into more housing. And forget about all that tax revenue we told you about. And it happens over and over and over and over again. There are a number of people in this room that have seen it. And it's just the way this county operates. It's absolutely maddening. But you're right, it comes down to quality of life. You are due some expectation when you buy your property and you look at where it's located and what's planned around you. I think you are due consideration of that and not subject to the social engineering whim of the day. And I'll get crucified for saying this. And I don't care. I said it the other night. The Gainsville and the Brinsville districts are under assault. They want to change our fundamental way of living. And that's fine. Well, no, it's fine in some respects. It's fine if you put stuff where it belongs. And by that I mean where it can be supported. This county just does a really poor job of properly locating things. Next.
Good evening. I have 2 questions. One is quality of life, but the first one, it might be a true false. We were told last night at the soccer field at Catherine Park that the lights were going in next week.
False.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Maybe by the end of the year.
Okay.
The poles have been delivered, but the county's going to be acting at the next board meeting on granting the easement, so they haven't even run the power there yet. Yeah, they've actually put a transformer. It's at least 2 months out.
I will let the SA know that we won't be practicing past 8 o'clock next week. My next question's a little bit long. I've grown up here all my life. My husband and I went to Stonewall together. We did not date in high school because I lived in BFE, and he would not drive from Manassas to come see me.
Sounds like you had a commitment problem.
Somehow,
I'm sensing commitment problem. Did he have another girlfriend?
it's possible, but we won't get into that now. Somehow or another, after we got married, I was able to convince him to move out to the rural Crescent. And I promised him that it was going to be fantastic, because it was the rural Crescent. And they couldn't build on anything less than 10 acres, and it was going to stay that way. And now, all that seems to be changing. We have our little piece of paradise in Longvale Estates, which when I grew up, that was where all the cool kids lived. And now I'm blessed enough to live there myself with my family. On the off chance that everything around us gets destroyed, and we don't have water coming into our house anymore, what happens? Is that burden on us? I mean, Shelter Lakes is in the same, Gypsum Hill, Sudley Mountain. What happens to all of us? I mean, it's more than 93 families.
It's a real good question, and all of that, I don't know the answer. My suspicion is that if it gets that bad and the water table goes that far down, and it could get, we've had droughts here before where we've had water issues. I can think back to the early 2000s. I think we had really low water table back then, and it took years to recharge. If the water table is drained, how do you get water to your house? My suspicion is that that the service authority would extend sewer and water. Largely on their dime as a capital project. But still in all, you're going to pay an outrageous tap fee. What was commercial tap fees the other day? 27,000, something like that? Very informal level.
So I've been paying attention ever since Gainsville and Brentsville came under attack, which for me seemed to be in 2021, when I started becoming aware of Village Place being approved. Since that time, I've seen my third county executive. One of them was a deputy or an assistant acting. I've seen two directors of planning come and go. I've seen the acting director of planning go. I've seen the deputy acting director of planning go. I've seen the person who was originally in charge of planning for the CPA in the Visual Gateway, he resigned. Every one of the planners who presented and recommended every single data center that I know of in Gainesville that's outside the overlay district has now resigned and left. Consequently, none of them are going to be here when these things are built to see what the impact of their decision making is. My concern is that our current acting planning director, because we still don't have one. First of all, I'd like to make a comment that perhaps you might recommend to the other supervisors, which is let's wait to hold off any more data center approvals until we have a planning director and not an acting planning director. My concern is he may be a wonderful man. I don't know him that well. The data you're getting seems to me to be about my age, which means he's probably ready to retire soon. So probably he's not going to be here either when these things are done and maybe creating problems, like you said, when we're under attack by what's going on. I know that you have shared some of those concerns yourself, that the planning office is depleted. And now that you've been part of the Board of Supervisors for several months, I wonder if you could comment on whether you felt you were overestimating or underestimating what the impact on the county will be, because we seem to be depleted with so many senior people having left.
Underestimated. Underestimated, because I don't think the exodus is over. We're down to a bare minimum of experienced planners with institutional knowledge of the county, and I have a fear that that number may diminish more. And if that's the case, you're going to be putting significant development decisions and analysis in the hands of people that, quite frankly, they may be wonderful planners, but they're, by and large, fresh out of college, inexperienced, and have no institutional knowledge of Prince William County, and that, to me, does not bode well.
I'm wanting to touch on the quality of life that you brought up. Everybody's focused on data centers, which is a big issue. But you also mentioned the affordable housing projects being planned. Route 55 and Route 15 are a disaster. You can't get through it. They're building more houses there, the affordable housing, the townhouses, and fast food restaurants. So all we're going to have are truck stops off, 66, where traffic is already bad, and it's only going to get worse. Is there any way to stop the one project you mentioned on the 2-lane road with transportation and support for putting in the affordable housing?
There are a lot of issues locally in the Gainesville home market area, and unfortunately we can't do a whole lot about it. And you mentioned truck stop. I joked in 2018 that the town of Haymarket was turning Haymarket into Breezewood. Breezewood South, welcome to the truck stop. And that's what they've done. They didn't plan And they didn't adequately look at what the traffic impact analysis was. I wasn't in office at the time, I actually stood at a public hearing for the town, and this won't come as a surprise to anybody, publicly accused both the town council and the applicant of the property in the corner of 15 and 55 of trying to cram 20 gallons of shit into a 10-gallon hat, and that's pretty much what's happened. It's out of control in this area. I mean, you've got what the town's done, you've got the development, the commercial development that's going down Route 55 towards Fauquier. It has been the dream of county transportation to turn 55 into a 4-lane highway all the way through, the western part of Northern Virginia. The problem they fail to understand is that Fauquier said no, not just no, but hell no. Development, I mean, we're getting right back to where we were in the mid-2000s, and late 2000s and early 2010s, 15s, where we're approving stuff and potentially building stuff faster than the infrastructure can keep up with it. It's not just High Point. You've got new houses that were approved within the last year and 2 months off of Thoroughfare and 15. You've got construction that's catching up, inventory of houses that have been approved for decades that are getting put in. You've got the Utterback rezoning. You've got all of the townhouses up and down 55, both in the town and outside of the town, including the ones that were done by the county. I actually live in Haymarket. I live in the town, and I live off of 55. And I can tell you right now, if you want to make a left turn in town, doesn't matter which direction you're going, you can't do it some days. Just coming out of my residential street is 10-minute wait sometimes. And it's going to get worse as that builds up. But I don't think what anybody's adequately looking at is where does this go a couple of years down the road? There's an application sitting out there on the table right now for Smith's Crossing for another 200 and some odd high density, townhouses and everything else on 2-lane Artemis Road. So where are the, it's not much more than that, 385, excuse me. So that generates roughly just short of 4,000 trips a day. So if you're pumping them out on the Artemis or department, they're only going, they've only got 2 options. They're all going to pay for it. And I doubt either one of them will take, even half of that number. And then you've got to consider the schools. We just got out to a large degree from under the school road crowding issue. My kids went to Battlefield when it was one-way hallways and one-way stairwells. Nobody's learning in that environment. But quite frankly, the developers don't care. Right? Most board members over the last decade or so, including this current board, either don't care or don't understand it. Nobody's looking any further than next Tuesday. That's the sad state of it. No.
Good evening, Bob. How are you? Okay. My fellow Gainsville residents, take a deep breath. We've been through a lot this last year and a half, right?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. I just pretty much want to say this. What recourse do we have, really, when you see that, for example, the chair, without consulting you or the other board members, pushed for this vote, November 21st, right? I mean, evidently there's no consequence to that action, or this county executive that's picking and choosing like it's a buffet what he's going to do or not. It's like what power did you and the other supervisors have to protect us here? It just seems to me these guys do whatever they want with us. It seems that's what I'm hearing tonight, and over the past year and a half, we've witnessed that too. Even with some of the people in the planning commission, everything else, they kind of do what they want. And so, what do we do about that? We pay for their salaries, do we not? And there's gotta be some kind of consequence. What can you do? I mean, they blindsided you and the other board members, about pushing this vote. And we understand that the planning commission is woefully understaffed and don't have institutional memory, all this other stuff. And they're being pushed to make a decision that's gonna impact all of us here. What recourse do we have here?
Two-part answer. What recourse do we have? We're gonna find out on Tuesday. That question's gonna get asked, probably not gonna get asked publicly, but it's gonna get asked in closed session. The repercussions may come out in open session, but, you know, I'm relatively sure that question's gonna be asked. What is the authority and what can be done? The other part of it, I'm actually gonna give the county exec a little bit of a break. On this particular matter, the setting of the dates, was set the end of July. July 30th? Yeah. July 30th. The chair set the date on July 28th, July 30th, somewhere in there, over the weekend. It's in my district, it's in your district. I didn't find out about it on the Monday after. This was done on Sunday night. I didn't find out about it the next Monday. I was not notified. I wasn't notified until 19 days later. By accident. When I was talking to the county exec in my office, and he just let drop that this is what had happened. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, because he thought the chair had informed the rest of the board. And I can't speak for the entirety of the board, but I can tell you Janine, Yesley, and I were informed. That doesn't work with me, and I will bring that up on Tuesday.
Well, what can you do? I mean, this one
I will find out on Tuesday what we can do. I doubt precious little, because I doubt there's any appetite to do anything about it. Yeah, and it would take a majority vote. Oh, Lord. Could you at least bake me something?
I have been making jam, and if you're nice, I'll give you some of my peanut jam.
Okay.
Actually, I have a question, because I'm going to follow up, and then I have a comment on what Ally shared, which was that we have had a pretty significant exodus consistently. Planners, people in positions of leadership, and now you're down to the skeleton crew. And my sense is that there was a lot of pressure, obviously, to get and rush through and railroad the digital gateway through, along with other projects that impact the Gainesville and Brentsville district. So I'm wondering, what is it like for staff? Because I would imagine, understanding that Anne is really pressuring to make this happen, what is that environment like? I can't imagine that is not, I'm imagining the whips and and just the endless hours and all other business coming to a halt. So I guess I'm wondering what the environment is like for staff. I'm also wondering about the impact to other applications that should be heard but may not be being heard, because all the focus is on the atrocity of the digital gateway. And then I'd like to make a comment.
Two-part answer to the question. What is the state of the office in their mindset? I can't answer you because I'm constrained, other than to say it's not good. What is the impact on other applications? Applications that have gone through the process fully, comported with the statutory requirements. It is my understanding they're getting pushed back to a later date to advance the other ones ahead of them. Not my ideal.
Of course. So I just wanted to, first of all, say that Karen is very brave to come up and speak, because I know that her heart is broken right now. I don't know, I'm probably dating myself, but
I love the environment because I remember the Lorax, the old one. And unless someone like you, each one of you, cares a whole awful lot, it's not going to get better. It's not. So I hear that there is a lot of threats to the Gainesville district and to our quality of life. So I just want to touch upon the positive things that I have experienced by fighting to protect not only my quality of life, but the quality of life of my neighbors and my children and other people's children. I can name probably more than a dozen people that I am now friends with because we have come together over this common bond of protecting not only where we live, but thinking about the future. I wouldn't have met Rhonda, Nancy, Chris, Jessica, I mean, the list just goes on. And so I want to remind people that you can make a difference. So I know it sounds bad. I know there's a lot of money being thrown by the data center industry and developers, and it seems like we can't win. But we have already won. Everybody needs to understand. Ann Wheeler had anticipated passing the digital gateway April a year ago. What we have been able to do is a phenomenal accomplishment. Ann Wheeler is not going to be chair again. And that's because all of us never gave up. Look at this guy sitting here. I'm going to tell you, 2 years ago, Bob never thought it would be possible to get rid of Pete Canlin. But we did. And we did it together. What Karen is trying to impress upon everyone is that the threats here are more than just the digital gateway. The threats are massive transmission lines. Even if we were lucky enough to stop the atrocity of the digital gateway, more is coming. Can you imagine in King George, there's an application for 7.5 million square feet of an Amazon Web Services campus. And do you know how they plan on getting their water? From the Rappahannock River. Has anybody driven over the Rappahannock River lately? It's almost empty. We don't have enough power. We don't have enough water. We don't have enough space. We don't have enough for this industry. And it's going to require every single one of you to stand up because we are the somebodies that we are waiting for.
A couple questions just about, you mentioned the development that on Artemis. What's the name of that?
Smith Crossing.
Smith Crossing. What is the state of that, or is it in approval, or?
It's under review currently.
Okay.
It's a relatively new application.
So, in the event that the digital gateway does get approved,
Then you'll be building houses next to a data center.
okay, since the theme of the last 2 years has been compatible land use, that doesn't seem like, so one's gonna be the chicken, one's gonna be the egg, right?
Or they change from houses to more data centers.
To light industrial and more Amazon warehouse. Okay, I'm
We'll
just curious.
cross that bridge when we get
Okay,
to it.
okay, all right, thanks.
This is Nancy Farmer. I came all the way from the Occoquan district. And I had to come here because we don't have town halls on the eastern side of the county.
I get a lot of complaints from your district.
So,
For some reason, your supervisor doesn't answer them, and they come to my door.
Yes.
Thank you, Rebecca, for dealing with it.
Yes, I stopped with Nicole's supervisor to ask a question too. Anyway, to carry on the theme, if everyone in the room can reach out to someone on the eastern side and make sure they understand what's happening to our county, because you cannot even grasp what is happening unless you drive around over here. And I didn't drive around over here up until the last 2 years, and I've lived here for 35 years. So please spread the word. Different topic, but a question hopefully you can answer. Our board was recently found guilty, a number of the members of the board were found guilty of a FOIA violation for a meeting that was held.
Case was remanded to the lower court, yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, there is money being churned away that I have contributed, I believe, to their defense. Is that correct? Our tax dollars are being spent to defend the supervisor in this situation?
That is my understanding, that tax dollars are being paid to their private defense, yes.
I'm not sure how or why that happens, but would it be appropriate or possible for a motion to be made by a county supervisor to motion that the individuals who are incurring costs pay for those in a manner other than through the county budget tax dollars that we are contributing?
I wasn't on the board when the decision was made to underwrite their legal defense. Can we go back and undo what's done? I don't believe so, Jim.
So the
Going forward is a different story. I would argue that since the case has been remanded by the Supreme Court back, and the Supreme Court, by and large, smacked the lower court around and said they were wrong. If it were, I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for the other supervisors. If I were in their position, the course I would take at this point is actually the course I would have taken when this began. I'm sorry I made a mistake. I don't know if that's going to happen. But going forward, can we deal with, can we preclude the county paying any further legal bills? Yes, but it will take an affirmative action by the board, because when it comes to covering the actions of board members, there are some clear lines of demarcation. You know, where are they acting in their official capacity? Where are they not acting in their official capacity? When are they covered by the veil of the county sovereignty, and when are they not? And sometimes it gets a little dicey. In a circumstance like this, I would suggest on the other side of the line, but I'm sure not willing to spend any more county tax dollars on their defense. Now, personally, I think they should just do a mea culpa and be done with it.
Well, I would greatly appreciate if the board make a motion to have not be responsible.
The issue of the expenditure has to come up. I don't think we can undo what's already been
You
done.
can't just randomly say, hey, let's take it down. Thank you.
Bob, I'm here to congratulate Prince William County for what an outstanding job they're doing. Within the past year, you hired a county detective from the city of Baltimore, paid him $350,000 plus benefits. The city of Baltimore, what a stellar town. Also, past 2 years, you hired, not you necessarily, but Prince William County hired a superintendent from the Chicago school system. What a stellar school system. One of the worst in the country. I don't know what they're paying her, but I do know after the first year, they extended her contract 1 more year. All the members of the board, even the Gainsville supervisor, voted to approve that additional contract extension. Right after her first year.
Now, board of county supervisors doesn't do school division.
No, not the board, sorry, school board.
School board, yeah.
School board. She also, shortly after her first year, opened up an office of equity. Cost $8 million. Now I understand it costs $1.8 million every year to sustain that office. What a stellar job we're doing in Prince William County. And they can't get enough of my tax dollars. I bought my last $20 bill tonight. Can I give it to you and y'all just go away? Leave it alone.
I wish it was that simple.
I know you were not there during this time, but I will tell everybody, you can no longer go to the polls once a year and elect someone you think is going to represent you. You've got to get off your sofa. If you like a candidate, you got to get out there, you got to make phone calls,
You gotta knock on doors, and if you got a $5 extra that Prince William County didn't take from you, maybe you need to contribute to their campaign. That's the only way we will change anything in this county to change the face of the school board and the face of the board of supervisors.
How did I know that was going to happen?
Let me tell you, I don't have any children in school, but I signed my grandkids to a bull run, most of them, so I signed up for PTA here. Also volunteered at elementary school this last year. I've also worked with Moms and Liberty, and I've also supported Bob and some of the other conservatives that are running in the state and local level. So I am not sitting on my sofa, but I expect other people have to get up. If you want to change the face, you got to work. So you can't just voting for them is not enough.
Good evening, Bob.
Can you hear me?
I think we just
Okay, great.
They can, but I can't.
I hope everybody else can. So what I'd like to do is bring up the subject about veterans. Okay, we've got a lot of veterans here. Let me hold on until I finish that. The subject is veterans, and I brought my guys, some of my guys over here from American Legion Post 1799, Haymarket, Gainsville. And amongst all I've heard here tonight, I would say most of it is negative. It's, this is bad, this is bad, and we have to deal with it. And that's right, we have to get off our duffs and do something about it. I've heard it over and over again from a couple of the speakers. So my point to you, Bob, is there are organizations out here, the HUSM is the VFW also that just got created, and we can help and we can provide things. We don't ask the county for money. We don't, we stand out with a hat in our hand in front of Giant, in front of Walmart, where donations on, so that we can send kids to school in here in terms of the battlefield, in terms of certain programs and other things like that. So money doesn't come to us. What I'm trying to say is veterans are a big part of your organization here, and we're here to try to see as much as we can, expose ourselves to the community and make sure that we have, the return of working with the community. So I just want to kind of say that. In one area that came up recently, when I just took over this post here, we came up with we found that the Stonewall Cemetery, as long as it's been here, has 32 graves of veterans who only have grass above them. Only grass. No markers, no nothing. The families could not afford to put markers on them. Okay? So we've started a project, and we've talked about this briefly. I just wanted to bring that to light, and if you wouldn't mind, just express how you feel about that. I suspect I do know how you feel, but the fact is, I like to hear it, and I like to share it with the rest of the audience here. That is a project we have called Respect Our Fallen Warriors. We're trying to get those markers in place. It costs money. We've got a program. We think that we can go little by little, start, incrementally doing it. And we want to make sure that we can put a program in place and a process in place to get those graves marked. Because to us, and a lot of people with the gray hairs here that were in the service, that means something to us. It's not trivial. It's something that's important. So please, I want to get up and just ask for your views.
You couldn't have thrown me a bigger softball. Not many people know my background. My father was a 30-year vet.
All right.
Combat tours, World War II, Korea, and Nam. 2 tours in Nam, even in advanced days.
There we go.
You've got my absolute full support. There is nothing nearer and dearer to my heart. Both of my parents are actually buried in Arnold. And anything I can do, or increase the efficacy of the project, or in my view, actually the speed at which it proceeds. If it requires grant initiatives.
That's right.
Hi, Jen.
Jen?
Talk to her about grants.
I got it.
And I'm sure the county's got some opportunities for grants, although I don't think they still don't have a grant writing office, which is just beyond me. But yeah, I mean, anything I can do to help you.
Yeah, we would love to work with you on those nuts and bolts and how do you go after a grant? How do you do that? But the projects out there, they're Haymarket veterans, they're Gainesville veterans, they serve, they're buried, they have nothing but grass above them. That needs to be fixed, and let us work with you on that.
Will do.
Okay.
Let the doctor go first. You had your question.
She's been in line.
She's my neighbor.
Yeah, your neighbors. We go back. Anyway, I just, two things I wanted to say there. Like I said, we've been through a lot, Gainesville, and I'm sure a lot of you feel it. And I just want to say, through the last couple of years, actually even before that, when we did that first Amazon data center fight, 2014 and 15, I just want to say that I hope that we continue to work together as Gainesville residents across party lines, because it's been really important. And I think that I hope, it is my hope, and that you continue to encourage bipartisanship, Bob, even though it's been hard. The board, I would like, me personally, would like to see the board work together more instead of just go on party lines. If we're gonna really succeed, we're gonna have to do it as a community. We're gonna have to work against across party lines to achieve what we want, honestly. And I think as long as you and others continue to do it, you'll have their vote, and you like your shirt said, well, if you're gonna walk the walk, talk the walk, whatever this shirt said, I think that's really important. I would like to see that you continue to be a straight shooter. But also,
I don't know any other way.
I know.
Although it gets me in trouble, and I'm sure Facebook is just alive with different comments about me right now.
Yeah, but I think it's really important because I'm getting tired of the division, the East and the West fracture that people are promoting, and the dog whistles that I'm hearing on both sides. I want to see us work together as Gainesville residents. It's really important. If we really care, like we say we do, about our county, and particularly this end of the county, we're going to have to work together and resist the temptation for that, to keep us from working together. So I hope you do the same. Anyway.
I'm going fishing in 4 years. How you doing? It's been a while.
Just fine, Bob. Thank you very much. My name is Wendy Alt, and I'm a retired pediatrician. And I've been thinking this evening a lot about the accountability issues, clearly, the longevity of people in areas where planning is important. And it seems to me that if some of these things are foregone conclusions, which is what I'm kind of hearing from you, or maybes, that we have to have in place some issues of accountability, water, energy, whatnot, so that there's a cutoff where we have said, okay, you can have this much water, you can have this much electricity, and above that, instead of having it be passed on to the ratepayers who may or may not use the service, perhaps it can be passed back to the industry and taken out of profits. That there has to be some way of monitoring this so that it actually makes sense. Doesn't make sense to say, let's run the water table down to zero and then see what happens. Let's pour pollutants into the water and then see if they're really there. We haven't given science half a chance on this. And it seems that those things should be put in place, like the noise thing, like all of that, put in place what we want to have happen, and then put some teeth in it. Why are there no teeth in it? Science used to be what balanced out partisanship in this country, even in Jefferson's day, for Pete's sake. And we just don't pay attention to it anymore. Not that medical science has been without its problems, but it just seems that we can do better than this if we were thinking about it. And I, for one, would like to see those kinds of things put in place before you build another data center. Before you put another data center in, set some parameters for what the tolerances are. If they exceed the tolerances, unplug the epic thing, pardon the expression. I mean, just stop it.
It's interesting you say that. And that's actually happened.
Good, let's do it. Let's do it in Kingston County.
They cut them off.
Unplug them.
Yeah, then they're diesel
The
generators.
truth of the matter is, whether it's data centers, residential development in the past, probably solar farms in the near future, the preponderance of the board, in my view, whether it's this one or past ones, really doesn't understand the issue nor do they care to. What's interesting is where we're headed. We talk about constraints. We're going to see constraints. The unfortunate thing is they're not going to be constraints applied by the county. They're going to be constraints imposed by outside forces. It's already happening loud. Dominion Power's told them, build all the damn data centers you want. You're not getting any power until 2026. That's going to have a trickle-down effect. I don't think what I don't think anybody truly understands is you're dealing with a proliferation of data centers, not just in Loudoun and Prince William, King George, Fauquier, now Culpeper, Orange County, and a variety of other places. Dominion Power only has so much capacity. I'm not talking about electrical capacity. I'm talking about capacity for capital project construction. They've only got so much available funding. There's only so many transformers available. There's only so much line available on the market. Most of this stuff comes from overseas. So if you have this, this is my personal view, just looking at it from a corporate standpoint. I've worked in corporate America all the while. And you kind of have to look at the supply and demand and what's out there. And it's not just, if there's a limited supply, can you just pay more and get it? It's when does the supply run out? How much can Dominion provide in terms of infrastructure? How quickly can they provide it? Is the manpower available to actually install it? And that doesn't even get into the whole SEC and the routing and approval process. I mean, you could literally see several million square feet of data center get built and then be tied up, hell, in the SEC alone for a number of years. We tied, Lena Knott, yes, we tied Dominion and Knott's for 4.5 years. Could have tied them up longer, but we finally came to an acceptable compromise, and they settled with us. We could have easily tied it up another couple of years. And I think that's the part that everybody's missing. When does the system implode? When can Dominion simply not provide the power in a timely fashion? One of the problems is Dominion is mandated by state law as a monopoly utility to supply the power. Doesn't matter where you build it. Doesn't matter what your reason is. You go to Dominion Power and say, I need X number of megawatts, gigawatts, whatever the hell you're doing. I need that power for this facility, and you submit your demand letter, Dominion's only response is, or only available response is, we will get it to you. Doesn't mandate when they get it to you, but they have to get it to you. And I would suggest that, given what's going on in the region, and by region I mean Dominion's entire service area, these guys might be looking at a long way down the road. And if you've got data centers and similar high electrical usage facilities in other parts of the Mid-Atlantic, that's going to further strain the resources. And then there's the unknown. I am not the screaming environmentalist. I am not, sorry Marilyn, I'm not the global warming guy. That's not me. I know. But here's the other thing. You know, you've got all this increased demand from data centers. They want to take your gas stove away and make you do your electric stove. Well, they can have my gas stove, my salt gas stove when they fry my cold dead oven that's burning. I'm not cooking on electric. But you know, the state's mandating the Clean Virginia Act where they're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to, in theory, purchase internal combustion vehicle in a couple of years. How much additional stress does that put on the grid? I mean, we're talking about a cumulative effect here. And I don't think that politicians either at the local level, sure as hell not in Richmond, probably not in Washington, actually have any sort of understanding of what the reality is. It's that simple. Here's where I get castigated.
I'm Jeff Fuller. I'm from Haymarket here. I want to salute my Legion buddies over there. I'm from, tonight I'm wearing my American Veterans Vote t-shirt. What's that? Where do I get one? Afterwards, I'll set you up. We endorse Bob. And a number of other folks who basically share our values. And I just want to say that I'm very proud to be able to do that. I am so glad that he's our Gainsville guy. So I'm going to offer a softball question, I think, but for me it's hard. For Bob it'll be easy. I'm concerned about the fact that we have 62 elementary schools in this county that don't have an armed officer present. I've done studies on this. It turns out the average age of a school shooter that attacks an elementary school is 28 years of age. They're more capable, they're more mature, and they're more evil. And they kill more kids per incident than any of the other types of attacks. I say that because our school division has got to deal with the police department to provide SROs to the schools, but not for the 62 elementary schools. That troubles me. That's a priority problem as far as I'm concerned. And I'd like to see that resolved in some way, but we already have a problem if we can't fill the 100 slots in the police department that we're short, plus or minus. So the state of Florida figured out how to do this after their horrific attack that you all heard about. And they did it by basically allowing the police department and others to set up a program to train guys like me, retired vets, guys that are returning from war, former law enforcement officers, to serve as armed officers in the school. And that would be fine with me. I don't care how you do it, but I think it has to be done. Now, Dr. McDade of Chicago fame has come up with a plan to put in what I call security hall monitors. Maybe useful, but they will not win a gunfight against a determined attacker. Okay, we all know that in common sense approach to it. So that's one aspect of my question. The other is, Dr. McDade has come up with a $1 million a year deal called the equity office for Prince William County Schools. It's more than $1 million, and her plan calls for bringing in, I guess you call them commissars. They're SEL coaches to help the teachers make sure they can implement the cultural Marxist philosophy that she brought down from Chicago. So my question is, do you have any leverage over the budget, and can you do line item adjustments or something to help with both of those problems?
Yes and no. Jen, keep me in my swim lane here. Jen walking in the back. The only way we can impact it is through the board allocation and appropriation of the school division budget every year. In theory and by code, the county board can allocate and appropriate funds to the school division either in a lump sum or by a number of enumerated buckets. Prince William County, for reasons I'm not going to get into, reasons that I completely disagree with, exercise virtually no oversight over the school division budget and the way they spend the money, and they haven't in decades as a result of the revenue sharing agreement. It's a coward's way out. I view the board's responsibility, one of its responsibilities, as fiscal oversight, and that includes fiscal oversight of the school division. The school division does not help matters when they deliver very rudimentary budgets that are sorely lacking in detail. And I can remember a budget presentation not that long ago, within the last 5 or 6 years, by Dr. Walls, where it was a one-page budget. I would have lost my bloody mind. I got called out this year for deigning to question the school division's CFO about some of the budget numbers. And I believe his response was something in public, was something like, well, I'm the chief financial officer. How am I supposed to know everything that's in the budget? You got a $3 billion budget. You damn well better know what's in it. I didn't. I got yelled at for having a temerity to ask questions about the budget. It's just give them the money and let them go away. How do you deal with it? It requires a mindset change by the board. And by the board, I mean the board of county supervisors. In most jurisdictions, and you see this play out around the county every year, in most jurisdictions, the board of county supervisors reviews the proposed budget by the school division, and in most years, make a hash of it. They tear it apart, they yell, they scream, they raise issues, they go back and forth with the board. Sometimes they change the numbers and sometimes they don't. Even if you do that, even if you allocate them their 5 or 6 buckets, there is nothing to preclude the school division from taking the money in those buckets and spending it any goddamn way they want. They're entitled to do that. So the question is, if you're going to go through this whole process and they're just going to ignore you and not do it, where's you've got the carrot, where's the stick? The stick is what nobody wants to talk about because it does exist. And it's a very simple stick. And that's Board of County Supervisor has to tell the board, school board, and the school superintendent, here's how we're allocating your money. We're allocated in these particular funds that we're statutorily mandated to give it to you. Spend it as close as possible to the manner in which we're doing it. Don't take it to spend on things we don't want to spend on. And if they do that, then the next year you go, well, You didn't do what we asked you to do last year. You wasted money on all of these things. So we're going to reallocate those buckets again. Just in this bucket, you're not getting as much. And yeah, that's a really hard thing to do. It's hard to do politically. It's hard to explain to school division parents. It's hard to explain to the kids. But if the school division is to be brought in line, if the county board is to have any sort of direction from a monetary standpoint, then they're going to be willing to make a stand and take that financially hard position. Every other jurisdiction that I know of doesn't. We take the coward's way out, and I'll be the first to admit it. I don't like it. I'm willing to say the unpopular thing. I'm willing to make the unpopular cut. Ain't gonna make me a whole lot of friends. But if you want to bring things under control from a spending standpoint, and believe me, I've looked at more school budgets than I care to think of over the last 20 years. I've sat on several school division budget committees. And if you think county spending is bad in some areas, try reading the school division budget. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a little example. Facilities, you're planning a facilities division a couple of years ago. Millions of dollars tied up in a fund. Ask them, what's this for? Well, we don't know yet. That's where we go to get the money for the things we decide to do during the year. So they're not planned? No. So it's a slush fund. Well, yeah. They did it. I mean, I don't operate that way. And it's a long answer to a short question.
Thank you.
And here comes another long question, but probably need a longer answer.
I'm going to be quick, I promise. Okay. Are you aware of yesterday, they had a $40 million data center development grant program vote that Danica Rome voted for, even though she has claimed to be against data center growth. And is this another fight we're facing that's now supported by a local official? It was in the budget, they snuck it into the budget, the special assembly that they had, and Danica voted for it.
In ordinary years, I would have actually, this is how much of a policy wonk I am. In ordinary years, I would have read that. I just haven't had
Yeah, I know it was yesterday, so that's why, I don't really know about it either, but
if you can send me some details on it, I'd be curious what it was, because there are a number of opposing forces in Richmond when it comes to that funding. Typical pork barrel stuffing and ring riders, yeah, I get it. I mean, I'd be curious what it was. Richmond has done some odd things with data centers over the years. They changed the rules on how their real property is assessed a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. They changed the rules on how the counties can tax their fixtures in terms of AC and that, depending on what type of facility they run. One of my greatest fears is that at some point in the near future they will venture into the CIP tax and either put a cap on it or limit the ability of the counties to administer it. We'll see. That's just my personal kind of sense of where it's going. I have no faith in Richmond. I view them as a lower opinion as a huge county. Come on, Earl. Are you going to yell at me about global warming?
But I am a trained climate reality leader, and that's why I often speak about climate and the reality that we're facing. But what I wanted to say to you tonight is we have done an incredible job. I wore this shirt tonight to remind you that we got rid of Pete Camden, that we got rid of Ann Weir. Those were not trivial efforts. We have now got international press. There's a picture of us from the protest next to, with the whole the sound thing, that I see in article after article. If you read the trade publications, you will see that the data center industry has hurt us, and they are worried by what we are doing. And that's why there was a big article by Compass about how they're going to run their generators on vegetable oil, except it's true. But at the end of the article, they said, is all these wonderful things that are coming, it's not here yet. So my thing is, if it's not here yet, we should stop all data center development right now and wait for the technology to come up to that. The other thing is, today Tony and I bought a vegetable chopper from a company in the Ukraine that I read about in The Guardian. The guy that owns this company, they make handmade axes and knives and stuff like that. He is a soldier in the Ukrainian army, but he still runs his business because they said one day there won't be a war and we have to keep going. And so that is my message to you. We must keep going. Do not stop. When I think about the brain power that we have and the coalition that we are putting together, and my hat says one Prince William and one Virginia, because that's what we are now working on. We are building a bigger and bigger coalition, and we are going to win this fight. So don't give up. Write those letters to the editor. Send those emails. Speak up at the meetings. Go to every event that we can, because we need to now have hundreds of people show up when we go to do something. And my question to you, my dear Bob Weir, I really do adore you and I really appreciate you. What else can we as ordinary citizens do to have an effect on this, what this county is doing?
I guess the simple answer is continue what you've been doing, because you've been effective. It may not seem like it, you may not feel like it, but it has had an impact. What's the old phrase, truth and power? I think the hardest part of dealing with the optics and the way that issues are dealt with in this county right now is everything, regardless of which side of the argument you're on, or which side of a particular issue you're on, is viewed as black or white. There is no gray anymore. I'm sure that tomorrow morning there will be a blast that goes out. It says everything that's out there in the cafeteria and everything we've said here tonight is misinformation. That's a hard thing to combat. Even when you've got it in writing, sitting in front of you, If people are willing to go to the extent where they're going to question the validity of something when they know it's the truth, the only thing you can do is to keep repeating it and showing it. 7 acres of parkland, not my number. That's the county staff, not my number. The potential revenue numbers decreasing for data centers, not my number. Finance. First it was 700 million, then it was 400 million, and then finance went, well, that was a rough number, and we left out everything like, what were the costs, the maintenance, carrying costs, interest rates, all that kind of stuff. It's significantly less. Stormwater numbers. There's a solar farm coming down the road. There's arguments over what is the runoff potential of a solar farm. And yes, I know using the word farm annoys you because you're not farming the sun. I get it. You're not harvesting the sun. It's an industrial use. I agree. Everything has become so toxic that there's no room to have a discussion anymore. And it's particularly bad when you've got one or more groups united around a particular side of an argument going at each other. Because then it gets very hard to determine which side is actually telling more of the truth than the other. And probably lies somewhere in the middle. But everything has become so political, so toxic, so personal. A couple of people in here are a little disappointed in me over the first couple of months of my serving because I'm not exactly behaving in a manner that I'm accustomed to behaving in an elected office. I have been known to sit behind the dais and pound on the dais and scream bloody murder amongst the other elected members. Difference was on those particular elected bodies, it was compartmentalized. We would disagree like hell with one another on any given subject. And once the vote was over, we were on to the next item on the agenda. That was passed. And you dealt with the next issue. Sometimes you'd agree, sometimes you wouldn't. But you know what? At the end of the day, when the meeting was adjourned, everybody could sit down and have a cocktail and have a friendly conversation and there was no hard feelings. We're not seeing that anymore. Now, the sad thing is, by my standards, God knows that's not saying a whole lot. I've been relatively mild-mannered this first 7-8 months. I can tell you something. That ends on Tuesday. I've had enough. I flat out had enough. Next time somebody tells me that I've come to the meeting ill-prepared or unprepared or underprepared with figures for development in the Gainsville district or issues that I know a lot about, my response is not going to be kind. We were talking about quality of life earlier. For the elected officials who are representing their districts, the quality of life of their constituents damn well better be issue number one. I don't want to hear about economic development trumping everything. You've got a right to the quality of life that you earn. Regardless of where in the income stratus you are, regardless of where you live, you have an expectation to maintain what you have fought for. And for that to be taken away or diminished by fiat, because somebody thinks somebody else is entitled to something, or development, or a developer should get a greater density or a use that's incompatible with yours is just unacceptable to me. It's an anathema. But that's a discussion for another day. Anybody else? Kathy, you've been all quiet. Yeah.